If you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, or beyond, you may have started to realize how important strength is in life, how foundational it is in terms of physical attributes. Of course, it's not the only thing, but it's the foundational thing. Strength is the place to start, and we see this all the time. A person starts training, they start getting stronger, they start working with us, and within a relatively short amount of time, their daily activities have already started to become easier because they've gotten stronger. Climbing a flight of stairs doesn't exhaust them. It doesn't leave them breathless at the top of that flight of stairs, breathless and wobbly and now a fall risk because, just for example, their hips and their legs have become stronger so that every single step they took on the way up that flight of stairs got easier. So strength is foundational, but how do you do it? Let's keep things simple and effective. In this video, we're going to cover three things. Number one, the primary tool. Number two, how to start. In other words, specifically day one. And then number three, the program, so that you can go out there, you can get stronger, feel better, have more energy, and be and stay independent without complication and without confusion. Number one, the tool that we're going to use. The primary tool is, perhaps not surprisingly, it is the barbell, right? You can see it. You can see it in our logo back here. Now, yes, of course, there's going to be a squat rack and there's going to be there's going to be plates involved, but these are all things that you should be able to find at pretty much any decent gym, from your local YMCA to your local barbell gyms, even up to your big Globo gym. So the barbell is the primary tool. Now, for those who are new to strength training, and that's who this video is really designed for, it's easy to be intimidated by, barbells and plates and squat racks and kind of the whole fitness culture, especially thanks to social media, the whole fitness culture that goes along with it. But I would encourage you to not be intimidated and remember that it is just a tool, and we like it for several reasons. First of all, and these are not really in any particular order, but first of all, we like the stability that a barbell affords us, right? And in general, when we're trying to exert force against something, when we're interested in force production, and this is how we get stronger, we like stability. So we like lifting on a solid surface. We like lifting even on solid shoes, lifting shoes, for instance. We also like lifting an object instead of two separate objects. So dumbbells and kettlebells aren't the end of the world. However, a barbell is really useful because a barbell is one object. You're not trying to control two separate dumbbells when you're doing a dumbbell bench press. Instead, you've just got one barbell doing the bench press. You will be able to lift more weight in this fashion, which means you can get stronger in a more consistent, more effective manner over time. Secondly, along with stability, you have to provide stability. The person using the barbell also has to provide stability in the sense that balance, and specifically we're talking about mostly the standing lifts here, right? So like the press, the squat, the deadlift, balance is required and therefore it is developed. This is an area where most machines come up very, very short. Balance is hugely important as we get older, and this is one area where barbells are absolutely great in terms of developing balance as we get stronger. Thirdly, this is a huge one. Barbells are very, very incremental. This is an area where machines tend to fall very, very short. Dumbbells and kettlebells absolutely fall short. But yes, obviously with a barbell, we can load huge weights, right? We can do 300 pounds, 400 pounds, 500 pounds, 600 pounds, and more. But we can also start with very, very light weights. People typically think about a 45-pound bar. That's kind of the standard bar that they think about, or a 20-kilogram bar. But there are also lighter barbells out there. There are 15-kilogram or 33-pound bars. There are 10-kilogram or 22-pound bars. There are 5-kilogram or 11-pound bars. We have all of those here. We have barbells made out of PVC pipes, and a lot of gyms, I mean, yes, of course, you come to a place like this, a dedicated barbell gym, you expect and you should be able to find barbells like that so that you can start at a lighter, more manageable point. But even at your local YMCAs now, we've seen, some lighter barbells. You might be able to find you can find some barbells that are manufactured in kind of more USA-friendly units as well, in pounds. You can get a 15-pound bar or a 35-pound bar. It just kind of depends where you're at, but you can very often find some lighter barbells, and you need to do that. And the advantage to having those lighter barbells is you can start at a lighter point, and then you can make small jumps. So of course you can make big jumps, right? We can go from 225 pounds to 255 pounds, so forth and so on. We can make some really big jumps, but we can also make some very small jumps. With 2.5-pound plates, we can make a 5-pound jump. With most dumbbell sets, you have to make a 5-pound jump per dumbbell. Yes, they have some smaller ones where you can make 2.5-pound jumps, but in general, if you're hanging on to two 20-pound dumbbells for, let's say, a bench press, that's 40 pounds, right? Well, then you move up and now you go to two 25-pound dumbbells. That's 50 pounds. That's a 10-pound jump. With a barbell, you can make a 5-pound jump because most every gym in the world, or in the US anyway, has 2.5-pound plates. So you put one of those on each side, that is a 5-pound jump. And that is not sufficient. You need to be able to make smaller jumps than that as well, and they make make plates that allow you to do that also, right? You can get 1.25 pound plates. We have a bunch of those here. You can get even smaller plates than that. You can get what's called a fractional set. And if you're going to go to a gym, you're going to start barbell training, this is one piece of equipment that you probably need to invest in, because most gyms, even a lot of dedicated barbell gyms, won't have plates smaller than 2.5 pounds. So you need to go out and you need to get yourself, it's like $30, a set of fractional plates. It's going to come with a pair of 1/4 pound plates, a pair of 1/2 pound plates, a pair of 3/4 pound plates, and a pair of 1 pound plates. This will allow you to make a 1 pound jump, a 2 pound jump, a 3 pound jump, so forth and so on, so that you can go, especially when you're starting, right? If you're new to barbell training, you want to start at a very conservative point. You might go from 15 pounds, then you might go to 16 or 17 pounds next, and then go to 18 pounds, so forth and so on. The ability to make smaller jumps, yes, at the beginning, but then also over time, right? As you get stronger, progress slows. You can't just keep adding 5 pounds to the bar forever. You need to be able to make some smaller jumps, and barbells allow you to do that. Number 4, I think we're on right now, but a barbell is a big bang for your buck tool, not only in the movement, but the tool itself, right? I mean, in the movements, in terms of a squat or a press or a deadlift, you can use a whole bunch of joints. Since you're using a whole bunch of joints, you're using a whole lot of muscle mass. So a lot of muscle mass is being trained with one movement, like the squat, for instance. I can go out and I can use 10 machines to try to use all of the muscle mass that I get in one squat. Now, not all machines are evil. Don't get me wrong. A leg press can be a real useful thing at times. A lat pull down can be real useful, but a barbell is always useful. It's also a lot of bang for your buck in terms of, especially for those of you who are interested in setting up a home gym, right? You want to be able to train in the convenience of your own home. Well, if you're going to go out there and get a whole lot of machines, even a barbell and a squat rack and plates, that's a significant investment. It's an investment in your health, in your future, absolutely. But if you're going to try to do this through machines, oh my goodness, it is a significant outlay of cash. Far, far, far more expensive than going out there and getting a quality barbell and a squat rack and some plates. So this is big bang for your buck training here. 5th here, a barbell is wonderful at strengthening your skeleton. And this is something where, machines are very often not as good at this. Certainly other activities like walking, swimming, yoga, all good activities, don't get me wrong, but they are not good at being able to incrementally load and therefore strengthen your skeleton, which is hugely important as we get older. We are fending off osteopenia, we are fending off osteoporosis, right? Really important to get your skeleton stronger, and barbells do this real well. Now, is a barbell the only way to get stronger? Of course not, but it is the best tool that has been invented yet. A quick aside here, what about conditioning? All right, now make no mistake, conditioning is important, but we recommend starting with strength. And I know some of the internet fitness YouTube boys love getting hopped up in the comments on this sometimes. You need to ruck, and you need to flexibilize and mobilize, and you need to get your mile time down to 5 minutes, and what about rowing and all that? So a couple of quick thoughts on this phenomenon. Number 1, I truly appreciate it. Every comment helps, and it's kind of cute and kind of adorable. Number 2, this is a video about strength, and that's why we're not talking about conditioning, also known as cardio. Number 3, make no mistake, conditioning is important, and you'll notice that it's in our name, right? Testify, strength, and conditioning. However, you will also notice that it comes after the word strength, and that simply reflects the foundational nature of strength, which is what we're talking about here. Number 4, for the main audience that this video is intended for, in other words, those people who are new to strength training but know they need to get stronger, I want to point this out to you specifically so that you don't accidentally get lost in the YouTube comment wilderness of seemingly angry people with perhaps a little bit too much time on their hands, right? Let's just keep this simple and effective. We are just working on getting stronger. And last here on this aside, most of our comments on this channel are absolutely fantastic, and I appreciate them tremendously. So many of you in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond have provided wonderful testimonies about not only your process of getting stronger, but also the benefits that you have seen in your life because of that. And that is huge for other people watching a video like this to see that in the comments and to realize that, hey, this can be something that they can do too. Because of course people watch this video, they expect to hear me talk about it, right? I'm a starting strength coach, I'm the co-owner of the gym, I'm on the channel, I'm supposed to be talking about it. You're supposed to hear it from me, but to see those comments from you, that is huge for other people. So thank you so much for those testimonies. Keep them coming. We appreciate them tremendously. And those testimonies are a huge part of why our gym is called Testify Strength and Conditioning. Okay, so we've got thing number 1, right? We've got the tool, it's the barbell. Moving on to part 2 now, learning the lifts and day 1. Now we're gonna cover learning the lifts in the briefest fashion possible, which is, I'm gonna recommend, because this video is gonna be long enough as it is, I'm gonna recommend that you go and you check out, we'll link to the videos below, our series on learning to lift. You're gonna watch specifically the squat video, the press video, the deadlift, and the bench press video. They're about 5 to 7 minutes each, and they're gonna talk about how to do those lifts, and also how to get ready to do them on your first day specifically. So we're not gonna cover them here. But let's talk about, once you've learned those lifts, once you've watched those videos anyway, how to actually go about that day one. So day one specifically is going to consist of the squat, the press, and the deadlift. So here's an example of what day one could look like, right? So we've got the squat, the press, and the deadlift. And the goal on day one is to warm up the squat and do 3 sets of 5 reps. I'll come back to this in a second. Then you're going to warm up the press and do 3 sets of 5 reps. So the goal is written up here. And then you're going to deadlift 1 set of 5 reps. Now all of those don't refer to the actual warm-ups that are necessary to get up to that weight. So here's an example on the squat. Typically with the squat, with the press, with the bench press, we always recommend warming up with the empty bar for 2 sets of 5 reps, and then slowly starting to add some weight gradually over time as you continue the warm-up process. So day one might look something like this. Again, it should be manageable for you. But let's say we start with 45 pounds, 5 reps, 2 sets, and then you add a little bit of weight because that went fine. The bar speed was relatively constant throughout the whole thing. You weren't slowing down a whole bunch by the end. You move on to 55 pounds for 5 reps and 1 set, and you add a little bit more weight, and you get to 65 pounds, and you notice that at the end of the 65 pounds, you're like, yep, the bar speed is slowing a little bit, and I think if I added more weight here, my technique would start to be compromised a little bit. That's a good place to end it on day one. So that's your work weight. This is where you do your work sets. So you're going to do 65 pounds, 5 reps, and 3 sets. And you can probably plan on resting somewhere between like 3 and 5 minutes in between those sets. Now, if you have not been very active, err on the conservative side. And all of this is true, right? Err on the conservative side on day one. By this, though, I mean if you have not been active, you might warm up to 65 pounds and just do 1 set of 5. Don't actually do all 3 sets of 5. You can do 3 sets of 5 on your next workout when you come back into the gym again on Wednesday. A new activity like this has the potential to make you sore. And if you get so sore after day 1 that you can't come back in on day 2, that is to say on Wednesday, then we went too aggressively on day 1. So err on the conservative side. This should set you up for a productive training session on Wednesday, which should set you up for a productive training session on Friday, so forth and so on. So err on the conservative side. You're going to do the same thing on the press. You're going to do 3 sets of 5. You're going to start with the empty bar for 5 reps, 2 sets. The press, also known by some people as the shoulder press or the overhead press. We just call it the press because there is no bench, so where else are you going to press it? You're going to press it overhead. Then you go to 55 pounds, 5 reps, 3 sets. The press is the most likely exercise where it would be real beneficial for many, many people if you can find a lighter barbell. The example that I wrote out here, 45 pounds, 5 reps, 2 sets, starting with that, I just did that because that's the barbell that probably almost everybody will have access to, but if you look around, you can probably find a lighter barbell. If you have a home gym, you need to probably get a lighter barbell, very likely. So we're going to go with this example, but just know you may need to start with a lighter barbell on the press. It's possible you may need to start with a lighter barbell on all of them, but we don't have time for a billion examples, all right? So then you're going to move on to the deadlift. The deadlift, you're not going to warm up with an empty bar. You're going to start with some amount of plates on the bar, ideally bumper plates that can get you with the bar at the right height off the floor. So they need to be full-size plates, or if they're smaller plates, then you need to create some type of stack that allows you to get the bar up to the same height that it would be with full-size plates. And by full-size plates, I mean either bumper plates or 45-pound metal plates. So you're pulling from a reasonable height. So let's say we start with 10-pound bumper plates on the bar, so it's 65 pounds, 5 reps, 1 set. Then maybe we go 85 pounds, 5 reps, 1 set. For almost everybody, the deadlift will be your strongest lift on day 1. So you'll notice the weight differences here between the deadlift and the squat. And then we go to 95 pounds, 5 reps, and just 1 set. So the deadlift is a little bit different in that way. Sorry for all the noise in the background. You're just doing 1 set when you get up to the work weight. All right, before we get into part 3, talking about the rest of the program, how the structure of the whole thing, let's talk real briefly about safety. Safety is important in any type of training, but we're talking about barbell training here, so we're going to talk about barbell safety, specifically the squat and the press, the squat and the bench press. When you are squatting, when you are benching, you need to have safeties. In other words, you need to be inside a squat rack if you are training on your own, and you need to be using safeties. In other words, you need to be using those pins or those spotter arms or those crash bars, whatever you happen to call them. They need to be set at a height that will save you from trouble if you fail a rep. Now, you should not fail a rep for a long time, but on the day that that does happen, you need to be able to set the bar on the pins and get out safely from underneath. We've got several videos on this. We'll link to that below. Now, you'll notice in this video, some people are squatting inside the cage with safeties. Some people are also squatting outside the cage and they've got spotters, right? Educated spotters are a wonderful thing. The downside, of course, to failing with safeties is if you fail a squat, you've got to go all all the way down to the safeties. You've got to set the bar on there, do the crawl of shame out from underneath. You've got to unload your bar. You've got to put your bar back up, load the plates back on the bar, and finish out your set, right? Because you're going to finish out your set. With spotters, educated, trained, coached spotters, people who know how to do this, you only fail by about 2 or 3 inches, right? The moment you fail, your spotters are there, and then you and your spotters together, now you have 3 people lift the barbell back up and put it back up in the hook. So it's very nice to not have to go all the way down to the safeties, right? This is what they do in powerlifting meets and strength lifting meets and stuff like that. However, if you don't know your spotters, people, at Testify, they're coached, they're trained how to spot, everybody knows each other here, so that's very reasonable in a place like this and at barbell gyms all over the world. But if you don't know your spotters, you need to be, and you don't have spotters, then you need to be inside a squat rack and have those safeties set at a height that can protect you when you're squatting and when you're benching. Also, remember, day 1 specifically, err on the conservative side. It's way better to walk out and think, man, I wish I had gone a little bit heavier today, as opposed to thinking, to walking out and thinking, oh boy, I went real heavy, I am going to be real sore tomorrow, I wish I had started a little bit lighter. So err on the conservative side on day 1. All right, let's actually get to the program now. Now, we're going to use the phrase starting strength. And if you're not familiar with the term starting strength, no worries. Starting strength is several things. First of all, it's a book, it's an organization. And when people, a lot of times when people say starting strength, they're actually referring to the starting strength novice linear progression, which is a specific program that, not surprisingly, is real useful to use when you are starting the process of gaining strength, starting to get strong, right? It's kind of in the name. And this is the program right here. This is the starting strength linear progression. So we talked about day 1 already. I could have called this an A day and a B day. I just went with day 1 and day 2 since we used day 1 already. But you're going to squat 3 sets of 5, press 3 sets of 5, deadlift 1 set of 5. Then when you come in on Wednesday, you are again going to squat 3 sets of 5, but then you're going to bench press 3 sets of 5. So you need to watch that video and work up to a very manageable starting point again. And then again, you're going to deadlift 1 set of 5. And the program is going to continue like this for quite a while. Not forever, obviously. There will be changes that need to be made, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here, right? You can make progress like this on this program for a long time, for several months if you are new to strength training and you start off at a manageable point. And there is an appropriate starting point for everybody. So let's talk about how to progress this here. Let's use the squat as an example, right? So we used 65 pounds in the previous, earlier in the video for a starting point on the squat. Now your squat and your deadlift, so every day you're going to squat and deadlift. You come in, it's kind of like a press or a bench press sandwich. The press or the bench press, they alternate and they're in the middle. The squat and the deadlift, those are kind of like the pieces of bread, right? You start by squatting, you finish by deadlifting, and in the middle, the press or the bench press, they just keep alternating on a workout by workout basis. So if you pressed last time, you'll bench press today. If I bench pressed last time, I'm going to press today. But let's just use the squat as an example. If we started at 65 pounds, your squat and your deadlift, they use a whole bunch of muscle mass, and you walk around on this muscle mass all the time. So those are really strong muscle groups. So you're typically going to be able to have some bigger jumps with the squat and the deadlift. You might have a 10-pound jump at first. Then you might have some 5-pound jumps. Then eventually, especially for older folks and females, you're very likely going to need the ability to make 2.5-pound jumps. So you need that fractional set that I was talking about earlier, or at the very least, you need a pair of 1.25-pound plates, okay? But you'll have some bigger jumps here, whereas on the press and the bench, those are upper body lifts. You don't walk around on that muscle mass all the time. So not surprisingly, you're going to need to make some smaller jumps. You might start off with a 5-pound jump or 2, but then pretty quickly, these are going to move to 2.5-pound jumps. And then, likely in the long run, you're going to need to make, especially if you're older, you're going to need the ability to make some 1-pound jumps. You're going to need some half-pound plates. You're going to need some 1-pound plates so you can make a 2-pound jump. You get the idea here. So let's talk about the squat, for instance. You come in on that Monday and you squat 65 pounds for 3 sets of 5. You move on to day number 2, and let's say you're going to squat. Let's say 65 went very well. You're confident that you can make a 10-pound jump. If you're not confident, make a 5-pound jump. Err on the conservative side. And you go to 75 pounds for 3 sets of 5. You're still going to warm up to do this. We'll link to a warm-up video below. And then let's say on Friday you decide to go to 80. And then the next Monday you go to 85. And then you go to 90. And then eventually 2.5-pound jumps start, right? Eventually from 100 pounds, maybe you go to 102.5 and 105, so forth and so on. So this is how you progress the thing. The press and the bench press, they progress also, but they show up on alternate days, right? The deadlift shows up on every single day. So maybe you go from 95 pounds, like we talked about earlier, to 105 pounds, to 115 pounds. Then maybe you start making some 5-pound jumps, so forth and so on. Does this type of progress last forever? No, of course not, but this is how it starts. Remember, it's in the name, starting strength. Also, remember, it's real easy to start thinking about the changes that you're going to need to make several months down the road. And again, you can make progress like this for several months when all we really need to worry about is what am I going to do next time and the time after that. Yes, over time there's going to be some changes that need to be made. We'll add in things like a light squat day in the middle of the week. We'll add in pull downs. Sets and rep schemes over time will change. Certainly coaching will help at some point. We obviously provide that, but this is not intended to be the sales pitch for us. I would strongly recommend checking out a book. We'll link to it below. It's in the Starting Strength family of books. It's called A Barbell Prescription, Strength Training After 40. It's a great book, and it goes through tons of examples of how you can progress this over time. And when you need to make changes to continue to yield progress, to continue to get stronger, it talks about how to make those changes and what some of those changes, really what many of those changes might look like. It's a great resource. We'll link to it below. But again, this is how it starts. And if you're new to the process of getting stronger and you start at a manageable point, and again, there's an appropriate starting point for everyone, you can get significantly stronger on a program this simple for several months, and it will change your life. As always, we hope this helps you get stronger and live better.